Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum, brothers and sisters. Alhamdulillah, this morning I'm still able to come here to make a video on religion and belief. Today is 18th of June, Tuesday. So I continue making this video because it is important. It benefits me. It helped me to strengthen my iman by keep saying the same thing every day. If you listen it today, if you're listening it today, you had listened it yesterday, before yesterday, the same thing. Why? Because the objective is strengthening our belief. Strengthening our belief by saying the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with regard to that we are facing the day of judgment in the future, and what I'm doing here is preparing for the future, talking about it. Yes, I base all my video on reading the Quran and as well as the Gospel of Barnabas. Alhamdulillah, yesterday my book on Gospel of Barnabas had arrived. I bought this one. It come from all the way printed in USA, America. So this printed in America or US in non-Islamic country, printing this one, and this book is talking about Muslim Jesus, and this Gospel of Barnabas is for Muslim. Many Muslim scholars had problem with it because the people who make this book, not the writer, but people have written here the Gospel of Barnabas and wrote a detailed introduction to the book, which raised several convincing arguments as to why most scholars regard the document as false. So few of Muslim scholars been influenced by this writing here, the last bit there, but we are not influenced by it. Our reference is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had been saying, if you find all writing in agreement with the teaching of Islam, take it. Meaning, I have been reading this Gospel of Barnabas to the chapter, I think to the chapter 73 chapters already, and so far I find in agreement with the teaching of Islam, and let me conclude, this is the book of revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So don't worry, because we base on what the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had been saying, not the people who write these things, saying scholars regard the document as false. So we don't believe what is written here. We believe because I also have the background of teaching of Islam, so I can compare with Islam and this book, and what is written here is also, let me read this one. The Gospel of Barnabas, not to be confused with either the Epistle of Barnabas or the Act of Barnabas, is an alternate to the Gospel of Jesus Christ, which contradicts the biblical New Testament view of Jesus. Actually, I have seen Epistle of Barnabas. They are not, I don't see that a revelation. I don't believe that was written by Barnabas. It's only a name, but so I know it is nothing to do with revelation. The Epistle of Barnabas is nothing to do with the revelation, or the Act of Barnabas is nothing to do with revelation. But let me read again. This version is translated from the Italian manuscript, but there was also a Spanish manuscript lost sometime in the 18th century until a copy was discovered in 1970s. So it's only recent that the copy of Spanish version had been discovered. Both manuscripts were supposedly taken from original Arabic texts. So that is something we are not sure, because the original must be the language of Jesus, which is Aramaic language. The Gospel, okay, this is important. The Gospel aligns Islam with an Islamic view of Christianity. So the word aligns there, maybe it's not precise. It didn't align, it was there before the Quran. So the earlier book is the Gospel. It's a revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so of the same source, and claim that Jesus predict the coming of the Messiah Muhammad. So this confirmed Messiah mentioned in the Gospel of Barnabas is not the same meaning as Al-Masih mentioned in the Quran. So Messiah is for Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I told you Messiah could mean the seal of the prophet. Or the leader of the prophet. So Messiah can mean the leader of the prophets or the seal of the prophet. It does not confirm Jesus' glorification or deity. Of course, glorification and deity of Jesus has nothing to do with Islam, and many consider it to be pseudeographical latex. So pseudeographical is doesn't look like a good word to associated with Gospel of Barnabas. Longdale Reg and Laura Reg, the person who translated Gospel of Barnabas from Italian language, were a husband and wife team who edited and translated the Italian manuscript of the Gospel of Barnabas and wrote a detailed introduction to the book, which raised several convincing arguments as to why most scholars regard the document as false. So they blame on the long introduction, but the introduction was written by this person, Longdale Reg, and his wife, Laura. And several as to why most scholars regard as document as false. Why they blame it as false when the introduction is long? Why they worry about the introduction? So they don't know they don't have the knowledge of Islam, so they just say anything they like, saying document as false. But for us, we don't take it as false. Maybe you can say they can say on the introduction, but That is not the main thing. And in this book, he removed the introduction. If you see this book, there is no introduction. It straight away talk on chapter 1 and a small introduction. So this small introduction was not written by this person Longdale, so it must have been written by Barnabas. Okay. Brothers and sisters, let me recap on reading the Quran. Let me try to remember. Yes, he was talking about Allah revealed, was talking about a battle where Muslim had trouble. You can say the Battle of Uhud. Muslim was defeated but not conquered. The reason why they were defeated, Allah also revealed in the Quran. So the Quran was also talking about the battle that Muslim got victory, and also the battle in which the Muslim lost the battle. But Alhamdulillah, not conquered. Okay, yesterday I was talking about these people who had not obeyed the instruction, or what was given, the instruction given by the Prophet to them. They were supposed, these archers, skilled in the arrow, was supposed to guard top of the hill. But seeing that in initial stage the Muslims were winning and they were able, and when the archers saw that the spoil of war the Muslim had after winning in the first stage, then the archers who supposed to guard went down from the hill to help themselves with the spoil of war. And Khalid ibn Walid, one of the general of the Meccan at the time, Khalid ibn Walid was still not a Muslim yet, but he later converted and became the general of the Muslim army. So Khalid ibn Walid saw the opportunity when the hill was not guarded. He and his followers went to attack the Muslim from the rear, which he had to climb the hill, not guarded. Then that caused disarray in the Muslim position and cause the defeat of the Muslim army. But then at that time these archers or Muslim soldiers ran away from the battle and leaving the prophets and his friends behind. Though they were called to come back, they didn't. They just ran away to save their life. So that was what was happened at the time. And Prophet Muhammad friends Sa'ad, I think his name was Sa'ad, protect the prophets. Prophet was the main target at the time, and the non-believers of Mecca were trying to kill the prophet, and they were protecting, few of them were protecting the prophets and fighting with their swords and arrow. So what happened at the time, the prophets and his companion went up to the hill. I think at that time Prophet was carried because he was injured. He was carried up to the hill, and what happened from the hill, the Muslim of Mecca was also trying to attack them. And that time Sa'ad, the skillful archers, with his arrow shoot the army or the soldiers trying to climb up the hill to attack the prophet and his companions. So I remember reading the book that Sa'ad, each time the Meccan soldiers trying to climb up, he shot with the arrows, and each arrow he shot had killed a person. So seeing this, so many Meccan soldiers were killed by the arrows of Sa'ad. Then Khalid and Walid, or the general of the Meccan army, dared not to climb further to attack the prophet because many were killed by the arrow of Sa'ad. He was only the one who shot them with an arrow, because Prophet Muhammad SAW blessed him that if he shot with an arrow, the arrow would kill an enemy. So with that, the Muslim army was not conquered, and there were exchange of words between the Meccan army and the Muslim army, and the Muslim army was up the hill and the Meccan army were downhill, so they were talking to each other, exchanging words. So that's it, my recap on reading the Quran. Let now me recap on reading the Gospel. I think he was still talking about more people come to Jesus with the sick people, because the people knew already that Jesus with his miracle cured many sick people. So the sick people gathered wherever Jesus went to. So when Jesus came to a city, so many people brought their sick families to be cured or healed. I think that complete my recap on reading the Gospel. Let now me read the Quran. Okay, let now read the first sentence in the Quran in Arabic. So we are now reading page 70. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Summa anzala alaikum min ba'dil ghammi amatan nu'asan yakhsha ta'ifatan minkum wa ta'ifatun qad ahammat أنفسهم يظنون بالله غير الحق ظن الجاهلية يقولون هل لنا من الأمر من شيء قل إن الأمر كله لله ويخفون في أنفسهم ما لا يبدون لك يقولون لو كان لنا من الأمر شيء ما قتلنا هاهنا قل لو كنتم في بيوتكم لبرز الذي كتب عليهم القتل إلى مضاجعهم وليبتلي الله ما في صدوركم وليمحص ما في قلوبكم والله عليم الصدور صدق الله العظيم. Okay, brothers and sisters, let me read the meaning of the sentences in the Quran. Then, after you face the sadness, then Allah reveal the feeling of safety to you in the way that you feel sleepiness overwhelmed you, whilst at the time a portion had been made to worry of themselves what they feel was not true to Allah, just like they feel before they were Muslim. They say, can we do something with this? Say, Muhammad, verily all the doing is in the hand of Allah. They hide their heart, which they don't reveal. They say, if there is something they can do in their doing, then sure we will not be killed or being beaten here. Say, Muhammad, even though you are in a house, if you are destined to be killed or die, then it is for surety you will die. And you will die in the place where you were. Allah was doing that way to test you what is in your heart, and to cleanse you what is in your heart. And Allah knows the content of the heart. So what happened here is that people question, because they always thought that Muslim would never lose in a battle, and they start to worry about losing a battle and got killed. And Allah revealed that if a person is already destined to die, even they don't go out, stay in the house, they can also die in the house. So next sentence, verily, people who turn away among you, who were at war in the two party, verily they were influenced by Satan because of their sin they had done. But then Allah had forgiven them. Verily Allah is most forgiving. O the people who believe, don't you behave like the unbelievers who say to their people, if you trouble on earth, for I fight. If they were with you, not going for a fight, then they would not die or being killed. Allah calls people to live and calls people to die, and Allah is seeing all things. So the previous sentence, why the non-believers was saying that because they want to make people to regret going to war, or scared of going to war, that they might be killed. But Allah reveals that if a person is destined to die, even in their house, they would die. So meaning, it's better to die fighting, you get the reward, than be in the house and die. So the best choice is to die in honor in the battle. Next sentence, verily, if you die in the way of Allah, verily you'll get the forgiveness and blessing from Allah is better than the wealth you get or the spoil of war you get, which they gathered. So with that, complete my reading of the Quran. So now, brothers and sisters, let me read from the Gospel of Barnabas. It's quite handy now. I have this book. Let's see what we have read yesterday. I think we should be reading chapter 73. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Verily I say to you, that if Satan shall try whether you be friends of God, because no one assail his own cities, if Satan should have his will over you, he would suffer you to glide at your own pleasure. But because he know that you be enemies to him, he will do every violence to make you perish. But fear not ye, for he will be against you as a dog be changed has heard my prayer. So the wish of the Satan is the people who steadfast, who is good, who is strong believers, to die in the violence. John answered, O Master, not only for us, but for them that shall believe the gospel, tell us how the ancient temple laid wait for men. Jesus answered, in 4 ways tempered that wicked one. The first is when he tempered by himself with thought. The second is when he tempered his word and deeds by means of his servant. The third is when he is tempered with false doctrine. The fourth is when he tempered with false vision. Now how cautious ought man to be, and all the more according as he has in his favor the flesh of man, which love sin as he hath fever love water. Verily I say to you, that if a man fear God, he shall have the victory over all. And said David his prophet, God shall give his angel charge over thee, who shall keep thy ways, that the devil should not cause thee to stumble. 1,000 shall fall on thy left, 10,000 on thy right, that they shall not come near thee. Furthermore, our God great love promised to us by the same David, to keep us saying, I give into thee understanding, which shall teach thee in thy ways, wherein You shall walk, I cause mine to rest upon thee. But what I shall say, he has said by Isaiah, can mother forget the child of her womb? But I say unto thee, that when he forget, I will not forget thee. Tell me, who shall fear Satan, having forgot the angel for protection, the living God? Nevertheless, it is necessary, as said the prophet Solomon, that thou, my son, that are come to fear the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. Verily I say unto you, that a man ought to do as the banker who examine money, examine his thought, that sin not against God, his Creator. So, what we can make from this is people tempt that wicked ones. So there's many tempts here. So what the message here is that if we fear God, we will not be tempted. I think this is the message on this chapter 73, fear of God. Similarly, there is also mentioned in the Quran, fear of God, to save us from the trouble in the future. So many people fall on the right and on the left because lack of fear of God. So with that, I complete my reading of the Gospel. Alhamdulillah. That complete my talk this morning. Thank you very much for listening.